I remember a recurring event that happened early in my marriage, and it was had to do with the cupboard doors or cupboard doors in the kitchen that I tended to leave open. And my partner would uh, remind me of it and quickly lost patience, and his tone was kind of like accusatory. And I used to pick up on that, and I used to really think this is a bad thing for my partner. He really doesn't like it. And I started getting stressed about it. And I started feeling like I'm messing up, and I started feeling like a failure. So it actually blossomed into a big stress response for me. And I remember doing some work on it, doing some inner work on it. And I needed to because it was getting me. What I realized when I did some of this inner work was that it wasn't such a bad thing and that I wasn't a bad person because of it. I mean, it sounds obvious, but emotionally, I wasn't getting that. And so once I got it on an emotional level, I started to have a different experience. And what happened over time is this would repeat again and again because my absentee mind would keep leaving the cupboard doors open. And my partner would continue to say, "What did you do? You did it again." And what I noticed is that I started becoming aware of what was going on earlier and earlier. At first, I would fall for it again. I would feel bad. And then I'd be like, "Oh, wait a minute. I remember looking at this, and it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm a failure. I'm exaggerating here." And so I would come back to sanity pretty quickly after the fact. And then what I noticed is I started catching it earlier and earlier in each subsequent situation. And I remember one day when I had left the cupboard door open, not on purpose. My partner was telling me about it, and that same tone was there. And I remember seeing it as if it was like, a missile being fired at me. And I just kind of turned and it kind of went right past me. It was like this awareness that I could see the bigger picture. So this brings up a really interesting point that criticism, which is one of the challenging things that all people face, and highly sensitive people are can be especially sensitive to criticism, can feel wounded easily. When two people say the same thing, for example, you may notice that one leaves you feeling wounded and the other doesn't at all. So what's going on there? What's the difference? It may be that one person is not judging you personally and is making that clear. So maybe it's someone that just really loves you and is just really skilled at speaking in a way that holds the whole picture and is not angry or feeling impatient in that moment. And you hear something coming from them, some feedback, could be the cupboard door, for example, but it doesn't get you because you're seeing the bigger picture that, oh, I'm still a good person. Whereas another person may be telling you the same feedback, but the tone is a little bit accusatory, or there's a little bit of energy behind it, impatience, anger even. And you may start buying into that and feel like, oh my gosh, this person really thinks I'm a bad person. Like on an emotional level, this is what it may feel like. So this can make a difference between whether you actually feel wounded or not. It comes down to whether you see it as something to do about you, whether they're judging you personally or not. But let's take a third example where, say, someone is really judging you, but you didn't feel like you needed their approval. For some reason, maybe it was like a 3-year-old is judging you, but you didn't feel like you needed their approval, so it doesn't get to you. So this is another layer of this, that the need for approval from somebody is part of what makes this criticism sting. And then finally, let's look at one fourth situation where, say, somebody is judging you, you're needing their approval, but in this case, you're clear that what they're saying is actually not true. Like you're like, what? Then it's not going to get to you. Or maybe it is true, but you don't believe that it's a bad thing, then it's not going to get to you. So what we're seeing in all of this is that there is a subjective area inside of ourselves that is important, plays an important role as to whether we feel wounded by criticism or not. This is where our power lies. And we often forget that it's there, and we just go on automatic, and we end up getting decimated by criticism. So if you can be aware of this a little bit, it can bring in a whole new level of experience when criticism comes your way. So the real thing is when I buy into the idea that this is a bad thing, that what I've done is a bad thing, and that this criticism is coming to put me in my place and tell me I'm wrong and tell me I'm a bad person. This is personal. When I see it as personal, that's when I feel like I crumble inside. That's when I feel bad. So what's really happening is that my own inner judge, and we all have one, has jumped on the bandwagon with the other person. So instead of just having one person criticizing me, I have that person criticizing me and my own inner judge criticizing me and like really stepping on me and saying, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. That's terrible. And to whatever degree I do that to myself, and it can happen automatically. It's not like I can control it. But if that happens, that's when it's going to sting. That's when it's going to feel like a big wound. That's when it's going to be a terrible experience. But because it's inside of myself, the more aware I am of what's going on, and the more I can kind of question my own thinking, where I'm starting to buy into I'm a bad person, the more freedom I'm going to start to have, and the less it's going to be a problem when other people give negative feedback. So the key for me is in questioning my actual beliefs. So maybe the thought is that simply this is, I'm a bad person because of this, or this is a bad thing that I did this. I need to actually question that and use the specific situation as a reference point as I go through some questioning process. The process that I love is called the work of Byron Katie, and it has just 4 questions and some turnarounds. And what it actually does is it gives me a chance on the emotional level to re-experience that situation and to notice what's happening on the inside for me. How does that thought affect me? And could the thought actually be the opposite? Could the opposite be true? When I go through this step by step, almost like leading a child, then things often really change. I like to say there's 2 parts of me, and I think for all of us, there's a stuck part of me in a particular stressful situation, and then there's a wise and intelligent part of me. The stuck part is the part that I'm pointing to do the work. The stuck part is the one that needs to do this inner work. And I, as the kind of wiser guardian part of myself, have to be very patient with that emotional stuck piece of myself. When I am, and I allow it to answer these questions and begin to explore the opposite of what it believes, it often unhooks from this buying into the criticism being a bad thing. And this starts to give space, this starts to give me breathing room. And as a result, I, with practice, can even sidestep the experience of shutdown completely if I'm aware. So this is something that I love to do. It's something that I've been doing for many years, and I've applied it to many, many different situations, and it always works the same way. And it always brings me back home, and it always empowers me to see how I contribute to my own suffering, and I can stop doing that at any point.